Welcome to Peter and Ruffy's Football Show. We're live on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. I'm Peter Martin. It is a greatly reduced show today in time, but as we head into the festive period, the PLZ Soccer team taking a well-earned rest en masse, but right up until Christmas Eve. And after the Christmas festivities, we will still be here live on YouTube for you to bring you the best of Scottish Premiership, English Premier League, and any breaking stories from across Europe and globally as well. And on the live feed, if you want to post any sort of message to us, you can. We'll read out some of your messages. Hi to Jockey as well, who's just joined us. Of course, everybody might be doing their Christmas shopping, but there's a fair bit to talk about and we might get your thoughts on it as well. First and foremost, it was, of course, the Premier Sports Cup, and Celtic defeated Hibs by 2-1. Over and above that, we'll look back at the 4 Premiership fixtures in Scotland. We'll discuss what happened in the Premier League, and we'll look at some of the other stories which have been hitting the headlines today. Of course, at Easter Road, a bit of excitement after the misery of losing the Premier Sports Cup, and that is, of course, Sean Maloney is the new manager of Hibernian. Hibs fans out there, what do you make of that? Give us your thoughts. Is it a progressive move? Is it exciting times at Easter Road? And what will Sean offer as a manager? What type of player will he try and bring in? And what budget does he have as well? Over and above that, talking of budgets, the SPFL have been meeting, looking to increase the revenue that they're bringing into Scottish football. And we'll keep our fingers crossed that they've got the business acumen to do that. And of course, the right approach to try and attract big sponsors. And just as a footnote, there's a victory possibly for the Green Brigade with the news that Bernard Higgins will not be coming as a security and safety advisor to Celtic. Is that a victory for the fans? You can give us your thoughts on that. So, I am delighted to say we are joined by Alison McConnell. Alison is going to take us through her thoughts on all things with the Premiership Sports Cup. Ali, delighted you could join us. First and foremost, Celtic got it done thanks to Kyogo, who seemed to be the man on blistering form. Was it the right result over the 90 minutes in your mind?
Yeah, I think Celtic were worthy winners. I think there was an argument about a penalty call in the later stages for Hibs, and I think it was maybe more fraught in the end than it might have been had Celtic been more clinical, particularly I think in the opening half when they had a lot of the ball and dominated the game without being able to find the back of the net. But I think overall they done enough to win it. I think you still see frailties there at set pieces. I think Celtic are still vulnerable defensively from there, but I think what you would have to say is that Kyogo is talismanic for them now. I think both goals were exquisite finishes, particularly the second. I thought from the second it came off his boot. I think you knew that it was going to arch over the goalkeeper and go into the net. I don't think you can doubt his quality, and I think like so many good players, I think he just offers something to those round about him. He can be quite an inspirational figure. I thought he was quite quiet at times yesterday, maybe just owing to the fact he hadn't played for a fortnight, but I just think he has that menace and that quality, just that he just needs a second to inflict damage.
Yeah, I mean, he was absolutely top drawer. Kyogo is a star man. And if anything, I think Hibs fans might feel slightly aggrieved at the manner in which Celtic responded so quickly after Hanlon scoring, and in the manner in which the winning goal was scored as well, because I thought they switched off at the free kick, maybe thinking there was a substitution coming along. But first and foremost, I think that the main grievance, I think, with many a Hibs fan might be, Ali, the fact that there should have been a penalty. I mean, for me, it was a stonewall penalty. I thought Starfelt was guilty of a push. How did you see it?
I would agree with you. I thought he was guilty of a push. I thought it was a penalty. What I would also say, though, was I thought in the first half that there was an incident with Paul McGinn and Greg Taylor that was very similar. I think if you're going to give one, you probably have to give the other. But again, I'll go back to the point that I think Celtic brought that upon themselves, that level of pressure. I think it's one of the elements that we've seen in recent weeks is that they can dominate games and have a lot of the ball without really putting teams to bed. And I think in the window, when it opens next month, I think they'll look to bring in another striker just to work alongside Kyogo. I know that there's a number of injuries at the minute, but I think that there's still a need there for maybe a target man to come in.
Interestingly enough, I know Dermot Gallagher was talking about it on Sky Sports, saying it was a stonewall penalty. I thought overall, I mean, listen, I'm not a fan of Starfelt at the moment. I think a lot of people gave me it in the neck alley when I was criticising him and nearly fell off my chair when they offered him man of the match in the game against Hearts. There's just something about him that just at the moment, whether he's got to go through a learning curve and improve, I think he's got to improve greatly. I think he switches off. I thought Hanlon ran off him very easily, and there are times when I just feel some Celtic supporters hold their breath when he's on the ball. I'm not too enamoured with him, and I thought yesterday Nisbet skint him and almost got an equaliser for Hibs as well.
Yeah, I thought he looked particularly vulnerable yesterday. I actually thought he'd played well in recent weeks. I thought he was coming to the fore. I thought his performances were more commanding than they had been. I thought he'd looked more assured and more composed, more confident. I thought yesterday he looked jittery. I thought he looked nervous at times. I would agree with you. I know the chance you're talking about with Kevin Nisbet. And I think if Christopher Julian had been fit earlier in the season, and I think the anticipation was that he would have been fit some months ago, but I think after the break, if Julian is back, that you'll see a front pairing, a central defensive pairing of Carter Vickers and Julian.
Yeah, I mean, it's long overdue. As far as overall in the game itself, I mean, Celtic had the majority of the possession the first half wasn't exactly anything to write home about. Second half, it came to life. I mentioned to you the manner of the goals, Ali, that Hibs lost. I mean, they've scored a goal. Hanlon scored a goal. They're 1-up. The Hibs fans are still celebrating. At that point, surely somebody in that back line with the experience says, look, switch on, start to think about it, midfield, get tight. But all of a sudden, Callum McGregor, as he does so often, has the ball and picks out a wonderful bit of movement from Kyogo. I don't think there was even 60 seconds for Hibs fans to celebrate, and it's 1-1.
Yeah, and I think if you watch Celtic at all, and have watched them this season, what you see is they do everything quickly. So they always try and move the ball quickly from kick-off, from a set piece. They try and take it quickly. I think it's something that you would have done your homework on before the game. I think Hibs were just caught up in the moment. I think a bit of inexperience almost. I think just enjoying the goal. I think you're never more vulnerable in football than just after you've scored. I think you can just lose a bit of concentration, and I think that's what happened yesterday. But I think it's a different game. If they hold the lead even for a short period of time, then the onus really goes on to Celtic to try and break them down. And when you've got something to hang on to, it's a very different game. And it's notable because, and somebody may correct me in this, but I think that's actually the first time this season that Celtic have come back and won a game, having been trailing and come back to win it. And I think crucial to that was the speed and alacrity of restoring parity.
Yeah, and for me, if I was I know I've spoken to a few of my pals through in Edinburgh who are Hibs fans. The second goal is a nightmare because they're contemplating bringing on Scott Allen. It looks as if he's going to be more attack-minded to try and go out there and be brave David Gray and get his team to try and win the game. And lo and behold, they've switched off. There's a quick through ball and the touch again from Kyogo is, it's just absolutely unbelievably. It's a superb finish, fit to win any game. But the Hibs fans must have been looking, thinking, what are you doing? Everybody's switched off.
Yeah, I agree. Again, I think it was very quick. Celtic took, and I did think it was a free kick. I know that there was a few people saying that they didn't think it was a foul. So it was maybe a bit soft. I did think it was a foul. I thought it was a free kick. But his touch is exquisite. I think it's just the touch that makes a goal. And as I said, the minute that leaves his boot, I think you just knew that where it was going. You knew it was going to end up in the back of the net. And you think that Hibs goalkeeper 6'7", I think, to lob him at that height and bring it down. It's just extraordinary technique.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, I'm going to read out a few of the messages coming in. Thank you to each and every one of you for taking the time and the trouble. Some Celtic fans delighted with the day out, and quite a lot praising Kyogo. Some people obviously share my view on Starfelt, that reckon he's a bit of a bomb scare. Is he the long-term future? Certainly Celtic fans will be keeping their eye on the transfer window. It could be an unusual transfer window for Celtic fans, of course, because the signings might come in at the start of January. Who's ever heard of that in the last 17 years? But quite a lot of people giving us their thoughts overall on the game, and Celtic fans commenting on the fact that it's great to get the first trophy in the cabinet, and quite a few people critical of the conduct of the referee. Helen says, hi Alison, Paul McGuinness pushed Taylor in the first half, it's just the same thing. And over and above that, quite a few people mentioning of course that Ange Postecoglou has delivered quickly since he arrived, maybe as the second choice, but I think Ange, and rightly so, I enjoy it when the Celtic manager or any other manager gets a chance to have a bite back, Alison. But he did mention the fact that he's still here in December, despite the fact that he thought, some pundits or journalists thought, he might be getting the boot by December.
Yeah, I do quite enjoy that as well. All the managers that don't read any papers and watch any phone-ins all have a very detailed knowledge quite often of what's been said. But I think he has proven people wrong. I do think there was an element with that Friday afternoon when news broke that Eddie Howe wouldn't be taking the job, that he had turned it down, and Ange Postecoglou's name came from nowhere. And I think there was an aspect in it, and I was guilty of it too, of saying who is he? I don't know anything about him, and having a scout about and doing your research and getting onto Google to find out what his background was. And I think we can be quite parochial in these shows when it comes to areas of the world that we're not overly familiar with. I think we've seen it before. You remember when Lubomir Moravcik was introduced, and there was a few scathing comments too. I think sometimes we are guilty of being narrow-minded, and I think it doesn't matter where he comes from. I don't think his background is relevant, and certainly not as relevant as what his coaching credentials are. To be fair to him, I think he's been fantastic to deal with. I think he's funny. He's fairly eloquent. I think he's very forthright. I think he's very straight. And I think I like that to deal with as a journalist. And I think it's nice for fans to hear some of the humour and some of the personality that I think comes through.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes it always helps if his PR person fills his head full of nonsense, but nevertheless, I love the banter with it, and I like managers who bite back. And if Ange Postecoglou feels he has to bite back, then more power to him, because he's delivered the first trophy. I did think Celtic played the better of the football. The 2 goals from Kyogo, absolute class, and well done to Celtic. They are indeed the team who's managed to get the first piece of silverware into the trophy cabinet. Will there be more to follow, or will there be a bite back from Rangers in the league? Of course, they've changed the date of and the time of the Rangers versus Celtic match coming up on April 3rd. That will now be 12 noon. Sky Sports just confirming them that today. But over and above that, Celtic will face Rangers on January 2nd at Celtic Park. And I wonder if those games are going to go a long way to determining the destination of the title. Will it be significant in the Glasgow Derby, or will there be other points dropped? It's a question we always like to pose to you. You can give us your thoughts on that. So well done, and lots of people praising Ange Postecoglou and of course Celtic and what they did yesterday at Hampden. So we've digested that. One thing that the Hibs fans will be able to pick themselves up with, Ali, is of course Sean Maloney, former Celtic player, now Hibs manager. He's in there on a 3.5-year deal with Gary Caldwell, a man with a Hibs and Celtic link, is in there as his assistant.
Yeah, it's an intriguing appointment. I think it's an imaginative appointment. I think Sean has made a name for himself as a very reputable coach. I think you know the calibre of player that he's worked with. I'm not sure that there are any bigger just now in European football, given where he's been working. It is Roberto Martinez number 2. I think he's had an outstanding introduction to coaching, having left Celtic. I think he was he was within Celtic's academy before he teamed up again with Martinez, and I think for a while it's been known that he was keen to maybe test himself in his own right and go into management. He's a young man. I think he's very considered. I think he's very eloquent. I think he's a great student of the game. I think he always has been. I think even as a player, he was quite keen to study opponents and tactical elements of the game. And I think it's a very bold appointment from Hibs.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you 100%, Ali. I think that's a great appointment. I think it's forward thinking. Certainly around the ground, you can see the influence and the changes in the mindset of the Easter Road board. Ron Gordon, I think, wanting to try and take Hibs forward and really try and maximise the commercial deals that they want to organise, certainly with the big screens and everything looking up. And with Sean Maloney, I've got a lot of respect for him. I think very articulate, very intelligent boy. And there's no doubt about the quality of players that he has worked with. So we'll wait to see exactly if some of his knowledge and, of course, some of his contacts can deliver some players of quality to Easter Road to supplement what they already have there. Exciting times for Hibs fans. Give us your thoughts on that. Elsewhere at the weekend, Ali, I think everybody was wondering about our predictor. You had a really good predictor, Ali. You forged ahead of me by a considerable amount. I had an absolute nightmare. Rangers defeated Dundee United by 1-0. They got a penalty to seal it in the end, but still, even with Dundee United with a few players out, Rangers still enough quality to maintain their advantage at the top. In fact, enhance it now to 7 points.
Yeah, it puts the ball into Celtic's court now ahead of their trip to Paisley on Wednesday night. It means that the onus is on them to make sure that they don't drop any points. It gave Rangers that opportunity. I was at Ibrox on Saturday. I thought it was a very staid performance from Rangers. I couldn't credit Dundee United anymore. I thought for a team of young players, I thought they played with incredible courage at times. A number of very notable debuts that came in and were fearless in the way that they went about trying to take the game to Rangers, and they were emboldened the longer it went on and stayed goalless. I thought Rangers looked as though they would toil to score from open play at points. I thought they looked tired. I think they looked like a team that have played a lot of games over the last few weeks. I thought there was a lack of creativity, and I think it just highlights how much Joe Aribo is central to everything that comes from Rangers, very much in a creative sense.
Yeah, some would suggest if you're not playing great and you're still winning the games, that is the difference. That's the key to it. The champions, 7 points in the bag is the advantage. So I'm sure Giovanni Van Bronckhorst will have a lot of work to do as they head into that break, but he'll still want to maintain that, as you mentioned there, with the games coming up as well. I don't know about you, but if I was a paying customer at Dens Park, Ali, I might have been looking for a wee bit of money back. It was lucky you could actually see Hearts win the game in the end.
Yeah, the fog was something else, wasn't it? I only saw the highlights of it, but you think sometimes as the game went on, there were points where you were struggling to really see what was happening and what was playing out in front of you.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a quick point I want to make to you, Ali, which is Motherwell 2, St Johnstone 0, which is fine, another good win for Motherwell. But the downside is the word coming out now, there's maybe Tony Watt is going to be looking to pastures new. He could run out his contract to the end of the summer. Can you blame him? Because I think he's looking for a considerable hike. I would suggest he could be looking for as much as 4 times the wage that he's currently on at Fir Park, which is difficult. And by the way, my sources tell me, Ali, Motherwell have really pushed out the boat to try and offer him, a lot of money to stay.
It's an interesting one because I think Tony Watt has had a very nomadic career, and I think he's probably played the best football of his career at Motherwell, at a club where he has been wanted, he's been loved. I think you see that with certain players that they want to be loved and nurtured at a club. I think he found a home at Fir Park, and I think Motherwell have been as good for Tony Watt as Tony Watt has been to Motherwell. I appreciate he's probably at a point where he's at an age where he'll be thinking it might be the last lucrative contract that's on the table, really. So I can see maybe why he wants to explore his options. I think this has been the most consistent season of his career. I thought he played well last year too. I think he's up to a level this season. I think he looks fit. I think he looks lean. I think he's been clinical. I think his performances have been sharp. I think he's definitely had something to offer in terms of menace just in that area, and just fulfilling the potential that I think has been there since he came onto the scene as a kid at Celtic. I think he's maybe taken quite a long time to move away from that goal against Barcelona and just settle into a consistent vein of form, which I think he's done over the last 18 months or so.
Yeah, absolutely. But a big blow to Motherwell if they lose Tony Watt. I certainly wouldn't like to see them lose him in the January transfer window, that's for certain, because you want to try and make sure you've got a goals machine there that can score and maybe push himself into the thoughts of Steve Clarke on a more regular basis. We need all the firepower at our disposal. And the other match, Livingston against Ross County, it ended up at 1-1 in the end. And I think Malky will be happy with the point. I don't know about you, but I just feel the form of Ross County at the moment. And remember, Roy McGregor likes to give his managers money in the January transfer window. I can still see them getting out of this, Ali.
I wouldn't write them off just yet, especially when you see what's happening at McDiarmid Park and you see the run of form that St Johnstone are in just now. I think he'll have been disappointed when they conceded the equaliser. I think that would have been a huge 3 points for them if they'd come away with another win under their belts. I think the last minute goal would have taken the wind out of their sails a bit, but at the same time I think every point when you're in the predicament they are is precious. But I think they'll be looking at the form of St Johnstone, and I think the psychology around it, when at least you're winning games and picking up points, I think it can be the momentum just to keep it going and to keep building, whereas St Johnstone, I think they just look like a team in freefall.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, listen, it's a bad day when you get sacked when you haven't even played a game, Ali. Tommy Wright sacked at Kilmarnock.
Sacked because of the fog. It was an odd one. It was an odd one on Saturday afternoon. I saw the game had been abandoned because of the weather, and then heard the news that he'd been sacked, which is kind of an odd one when you're thinking about it and analysing the timing of it. But I think the anticipation would have been that he was going to the Championship to bring Kilmarnock straight back up again, and it's been a bit more fraught than that over the last few weeks.
Ali, as ever, on the park, we like to talk about football, we like to talk about special players, teams winning, give our account of and our opinion of managers. Sometimes fans like it, sometimes don't, but you'll always get an opinion on here, a wee bit of banter with the crew. I must get your thoughts on something off the field, which has been interesting. It's been doing the rounds over the last 24 hours. Celtic fans delighted, I think, with the decision from former police commander Bernard Higgins that he won't be coming to Celtic. The fans have protested in quite significant numbers. Is this a victory for the Green Brigade and their other supporters? And does it set a good precedent for the board going forward, or a dangerous one?
It's an interesting one, I think. I don't think it was exclusively the Green Brigade. I think it had wider support among the Celtic fans who were very vocal and very clear about their feelings on the matter. I thought it was interesting that the confirmation didn't come from the club, but came from him himself. I think the club haven't really been willing to exchange in any dialogue at all. But I think they made their feelings clear on the matter. I think there was no ambiguity about it, and ultimately I think it would have been more hassle than what it was worth to go ahead with it and to push ahead with it against the wishes of your own support.
Yeah, okay. I'm sure the arguments for and against will rumble on. Certainly, if you look at some of the messages being posted, I think many Celtic fans think it's a victory, but just who will get that job remains to be seen. Anyway, apart from anything else, it's a shortened version of the show all this week, just reacting to the games, looking ahead to them, and of course giving you a reaction as well as dealing with some of the emerging stories. I have to say, congratulations to James Lindsay. He's from Wishaw. He won our Xbox. Congratulations to you, James, a subscriber to the YouTube channel as well. A big Rangers fan, he tells me, as we contacted him to let him know on Friday that he was the winner of the Xbox. And I can tell you, I'm not sure we'll get it to you before Christmas, but we're giving away an iPad as well this week. So stay tuned for that. I'll give you details tomorrow at 4 o'clock on the YouTube channel. Of course, Ali, we might catch you after Christmas. I've had a look at your tree in the background there. I'm not quite sure if my present has been wrapped yet, but I know you're wrapping them at the moment, Ali. I won't hold my breath just in case I'm not getting that top that I asked you for.
Listen, the way that COVID's going on, I think we'll all be lucky to have a Christmas.
Well, just on that point, as we get ready to go, Ali, Thomas Tuchel has said it's something that has to be addressed. He thinks it's unfair to the players. It's not safe to play on because players are catching this COVID, the Omicron, and it's having a major impact. I just wonder how many games will survive before Christmas and after it here in Scotland as well. I think the SPFL is hoping just to maybe get over the line and no more for the shutdown.
Yeah, I think if you could get to January at least, and then there's a possibility of some respite. I think you saw today, I think Spurs have been kicked out of the Conference League because Rennes were awarded a 3-0 win because they couldn't fulfil the fixture. I think you'll see more of that. I was amazed at the weekend that the Leeds game went ahead when you consider how many players they had out and the other games that had been called off. I think so far in Scotland we've been fortunate to have escaped those kind of numbers, but I think there is a feeling that you're holding your breath now.
Ali, I'll probably speak to you before Christmas, but I hope you and the family have an absolutely fantastic Christmas. Are you going to get the present that you've asked for? I just thought I might ask you that.
I don't think I've asked for anything, Peter. I think I have everything. Love and friendship. What more could you want?
Well, what a line to finish with, Ali. I'm not sure too many of the guys who come on this show later this week will share your unbelievably charitable line there. But nevertheless, for a woman who has everything, I want to thank you for joining us. Now, I hope you and the family have a great Christmas. And to everyone else out there, got to thank you as well for joining us on the programme. Hopefully you'll join us, of course, in 4 o'clock tomorrow on the programme and all the way through to Christmas Eve. We'll have that wee break. We'll be back, build up to the Old Firm game on January 2nd and the Edinburgh Derby on January 3rd, as well as all the crucial other games involving the teams at the bottom and the top of the Scottish Premiership. So you can give us your thoughts on that. Thanks to each and every one of you for joining us today and giving us your opinion on our YouTube feed. And well done to James Lindsay, who's won that Xbox Series S. I think he's going to be a happy man with his family in Wishaw. Don't forget there's a competition tomorrow to win an iPad. I'll give you details of that not only on YouTube but on our Facebook, on our Twitter, and you can get all the latest breaking sports news in Scotland, England, across Europe and globally if you download the PLZ Soccer app as well. It's very simple in Google Play and in the App Store. It has all the breaking stories for you, and there's even the follow-up there on Kyogo. Congratulations to Celtic. They are the winners of the Premier Sports Cup. Good win for them. That's the first piece of silverware. Who's going to take the second piece and the third piece of silverware in Scotland? It's all to be debated all the way through. Hopefully you'll stay with us. Subscribe to PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. But from Alison McConnell and myself, Peter Martin, thanks for watching.